Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our meeting of the Finance and General Purposes meeting. It takes place on today, Tuesday, the 9th of February, apologies there, at 6:30, and it's streamed live to YouTube. It will be made available for a minimum of 6 months. Please be aware that footage from meetings could be used in media broadcasts. I'm Jeanette Stevenson, Chair of the Finance and General Purposes Committee, and I would like to extend a warm welcome to members of the public, members, officers, and the media who are watching this live stream. Before I commence with the formal business on the agenda, I would like to cover housekeeping issues for us all to follow. For those taking part in the meeting, could you please only speak when invited to speak by myself as Chair? Keep your microphone on mute at all times unless invited to speak. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand, and please bear in mind all participants can see discussions in the chat function. Once invited to speak, please introduce yourself with your name and your position, unless you've already introduced yourself earlier in the meeting. If you're having issues with connectivity, try switching off your video and use the audio function. And if those issues continue, you may have to leave the meeting and rejoin to get a better signal. Please follow these simple rules as it will help us run this meeting efficiently as possible. I will be pausing briefly when questions and comments are being invited to allow members to register their interest to speak. Okay, thanks everyone. James? Going to item 1, do we have apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. There is one apology for absence. That is from Councillor David Marshall.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 2, any declarations of interest to register? No, I can't see any. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to item 3, procedural and appropriate announcements from the Chair. I don't have any at all from the Chair. James, do you have anything further?
Chair, it was just to let members know that we are obviously ongoing with the proposed restructure of the Town Council, which is ongoing. The end date for that is the 26th of February, by which a report will need to go back to full council at that point for further recommendations. The only other thing that I have, Chair, is, as per normal, just a HC and papers check, if that's okay with yourself.
Yep. Okay,
members, so just to confirm that you can hear, see, and you have the papers with you. So, Councillor Gordon Binney.
Yes, I've got everything I need.
Councillor Helen Clark.
Yes, I have everything I need.
Councillor Mark Davidson.
Yep, I've certainly got everything, thank you.
Councillor Carol Hampson.
Yes, I've got everything I need, thank you.
Councillor James Kane.
Yeah, I've got everything here, thank you.
Councillor Joe McMahon. I'm guessing Councillor Joe McMahon is not with us. Councillor Balliner.
I've got everything, thank you.
Councillor Joan Nicholson.
Yes, I've got everything, thank you.
Councillor Jeanette Stevenson.
Yes, I have everything, thank you.
Councillor Les Timby.
Yeah, I've got everything, thanks very much.
And Councillor David Tully.
Yes, I've got everything. Thank you. My button doesn't work.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you. Item 4, public participation.
Chair, I can confirm that we've received no questions prior to council tonight.
That's great. Thank you. On to item 5, confirmation of the minutes. Do I have anyone who's going to propose that?
Chair, Councillor James Kane has got his hand.
Oh, yes, sorry, I'm in the wrong area. Sorry, James. Thank you.
Chair. Thank you. Councillor James Kane, Stanley Hall Ward. I just want to propose that we accept the minutes and approve them as a correct, a true reflection of the last meeting, please, Chair.
Thanks, James. Gordon, I see you have your hand up.
Councillor Gordon Binney from the Havana Ward, I'd like to second that proposal.
Thank you. So can we approve as a correct record the minutes for the 12th of January?
Approved, Chair.
Okay. Okay, moving on to item 6, accounts for payment and bank reconciliation. Anne, are you going to take us through those?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, councillors. I'm Barry, Finance Officer. So in terms of item 6, the accounts for payment and bank reconciliation, you should be in receipt of the monthly schedule of payments and receipts. And some of you may have noticed a number of reversed entries on the schedule of receipts this month in relation to the grants received. That was an error on my behalf. I originally posted the entries at standard rate at VAT instead of outside the scope. So the new entry gives us the full benefit of the grant. So that's all been corrected now. The budget monitor, that continues to highlight the same areas that have been highlighted throughout the year, the cost pressures. Has anybody got any questions or comments?
I don't have any hands up. Oh, sorry, Les.
Since there's no questions for Anne, I propose we'll take them on block, and I propose we'll just take them on block and thank Anne for the report.
Lovely. Gordon, you have your hand up.
I'd like to second that proposal from Councillor Timby.
Okay. So can we approve the payments and accounts and note the bank reconciliation for January 2021, taking items B, C and D and E together?
Yeah, happy for that, Chair.
Okay, is everyone okay with that before we move on? Happy? That's wonderful. Okay, over to Anne again for our audit report.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, we received the audit report from our internal auditor, Gordon Fletcher, and he'd highlighted an issue around the authorisation of the timesheets, which we're currently working on at the moment to try and find a way that's acceptable to yourselves and the auditor. At the moment, we have an electronic timesheet where we've been recording our time, so any time off in lieu can be recorded. And the observation that the auditor had was around the electronic signature. So although all the officers are completing them on a day-to-day basis, when we send them for authorisation, his concern was that anybody could authorise those. But from my point of view, the email is sent from the officers to the manager, and that is an audit trail to say that it's gone to the correct channel for authorisation. So I think we just need to have a bit more clarification around what will be acceptable.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Anne? Les, you have your hand up?
Yeah. Councillor Les Timby, Southmore and Quayton Houses. Couple of questions for yourself, Anne, then a general question which I hope as officer you relate back to the auditor, because I think some of his stuff in his audit report isn't true and factual. So I'll start at the beginning. First question is, why were we not notified that we didn't get full assurance in the payroll audit, considering the report came to you on the 17th of November from the auditor? And also the last sentence of your report, once we have established a system that meets our need and the auditor's recommendation, then this will be rolled out to staff. So has this been rolled out to the staff? And if not, when will it be?
Yeah, all the staff have the timesheet, so everybody's filling in an electronic version of the timesheet, which is obviously, now that everybody's working from home, is kind of more important that it's done electronically, and they're saved in a place where the managers can access them at any given time to do, spot checks or the monthly authorisation. With regard to your first question, Les, I can only apologise that it wasn't sent out earlier.
Okay. The second one is, and I know you can't answer this, but I would like you and the clerk to feed this back to the auditor. In 9.4 of his report, which is on page 3 of Appendix 2, have you got that? It's halfway down the page on page 24 of the papers.
Just scrolling through.
It's all right, don't worry. Just give us a shout when you get there.
If there's any help, Anne, it's page 24 of 103.
So I'm on page 24.
Right, it's 9.4. Right?
9. Yeah.
That whole bit is actually factually wrong, as you were fully aware, because you don't inform Durham County Council Human Resources section who processed payroll. It's payroll that process. This is why we've got 2 SLAs, one for HR and one for payroll. The 2 completely different sections, and how he doesn't understand that there's only payroll, it's not HR that do that function. So I would like that fed back to him, because what he's put in his rope is factually wrong.
Yes. Yeah. We'll get that soon. That's not a problem, Councillor Timby.
Yes. In 9.9, how do our cleaners fill in electronic timesheets?
The cleaners,
all staff complete electronic sheets, and as far as I'm aware, our cleaners don't have access to a laptop or anything like that. So, simple question.
Yeah, you are correct, Councillor Timby. They don't have access to electronic PCs, so they don't fill in electronic timesheets.
Right, cheers. And also, final point is on the action plan, which is on page 35.
Yeah.
Couple of things. The first point 1, it's got right at the end, management comment. Salaried staff are not subject to paid overtime. Well, they are subject to paid overtime. We've got a toil policy in place, but if toil can't be taken for whatever reason, or somebody's built up so much toil, they can take overtime, and that's in the policy. So that's factually wrong again. And then the responsibility time scale, on both parts it says immediate. Well, has it happened? Because it's 3 months since this report came out, when immediate isn't 3 months if it hasn't been done.
Chair, am I okay to come in at this point?
Yes, yes. Thanks, James.
Thank you, Chair. Just to obviously a few of the points there, Councillor Timby. Going back to 9 points with regards to the cleaners and their timesheets. At the moment, or whilst I've been in post, the cleaners have always been on fixed hours. So you know, for that basis, there would be no requirement to fulfill a timesheet because they would come in at the same time and go home at the same time every day. However, obviously, if that was the requirement, then we could ask them to start to complete a timesheet. With regards to the point about the delay in the report coming to council, it was originally planned for the report to come to the December's Finance and General Purposes Committee, but unfortunately, at the time we were going through the finances of everything, and it was felt that the December's meeting for Finance and General Purposes should be directed at the budget only, and therefore the report was shelved for that period of time, and it was brought to the next available Finance and General Purposes Committee. But we do take on board that we do have the availability to email out some of these things. So absolutely, for the next ones that we do have, we will circulate them as soon as we get them. With regards to the toil system and the salaried staff are not subject to paid overtime, absolutely take your side of things. I think the on a general basis, salaried staff would not receive paid overtime unless agreed prior to that. So we're talking about general overtime in this sense. But again, I'm quite happy to take that on board. And with regards to the immediate timescale, we have put in electronic timesheets across the board, obviously apart from the likes of the cleaners. So the immediate change there is moving people from a manual timesheet to an electronic timesheet. One of the issues that we do have is that this fulfilling what the auditor requires. Therefore, you know, this issue around signatures and how we control that signature element, and the fact that from an auditor's perspective, he's not happy with an audit email trail, whereby I authorise the emails in that sense. So that is going to take a bit of time, and we are looking at various options, and we will obviously speak to the auditor with regards to when we come to the end of that process, and ensure that it meets his requirements, as well as meeting obviously members here as well.
Thanks very much, James.
That's all I've got to say on that.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
So committee is requested to note this report. Is everyone happy with that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Moving on to item 9, the neighbourhood warden's contract. James, are you able to take us through that, please?
Sorry, Chair, there was a point 8, which is the grant funding report.
Grant funded. Oh, apologies. I've flicked on too quick. Sorry. And again, back to you for the report on grant funding. Apologies about that.
Thank you. So I've taken the opportunity to present the details of the funding that we've received to date, mainly as a result of lockdown. So you'll see from the report that we've received over 43,000, and we're projected to receive 66 by the end of the year. Obviously, the fundings covers furlough, lockdown grants, one-off payments for restrictions to businesses. So I thought that might be quite useful to see that the funding that is available we are receiving. Anybody got any comments?
That is really useful. Thank you very much, Anne. Does anyone else have any questions at all? Any comments? Are we happy just to note this report?
Happy to know.
Yep, happy to know that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So we do now finally arrive at number 9, neighbourhood warden's contract. Again, James, can I ask you to to take us through this, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So members, the report is as written in front of you, hopefully. The Neighbourhood Warden's contract is due to end its 3-year term on the 31st of March 2021. What I provided in the report is the current specification, including the tasking and purposing of the Neighbourhood Wardens. The specification also refers to the outcomes of the Neighbourhood Warden service. And then we look into the review of the current contract. Unfortunately, at the time of the report, the 2021 full year statistics were not available at this point in time, but it shows that the neighbourhood wardens are busy with numerous areas. Some of obviously, depending on the area that you live in, will be more significant to some than others. Whilst you can also see that there is a small amount of enforcement that has been issued by the neighbourhood wardens. Moving on to the 3.5 of the report, I've included some details from the operations manager, of which provides the line management and tasking for the neighbourhoods warden service, whilst also including the contract monitoring. So I asked him for examples and his thoughts on the contract, and you know, what he thought that the contract has brought to Stanley Town Council from his perception. Of which, you know, every single one of them things is obviously a positive note for the town council. Yeah. Point 4 lists the proposals, of which I've put down there. So it's due to expire on the 31st of March, and the neighbourhood warden manager of the North is requesting our determination on the immediate future of the service. So proposals are being sought from Durham County Council to continue to provide the service on a 1-year contract, a 2-year contract and a 3-year contract, with the costs identified below. So as mentioned in 4.3, the council has allocated a budget of £76,000 for the cost of neighbourhood wardens for 21-22 to continue the service, and would therefore deliver £5,830 of in-year savings. Members, unfortunately, unfortunately, that is slightly inaccurate following a conversation with the neighbourhood warden manager as of this morning. The figures of the service provision as set out in 4.2 provide the staffing element of the proposal, and not the potential total cost. From speaking to Belinda this morning, she's outlined that she would hope that that would be the cost that she would invoice us for. However, she needs to, there may be possible contingency costs which will be included should they arise in year. Such contingency costs could be the replacement of the stab vests, the replacement of uniform, and the replacement of their radio system. Now, she tells me that in the past year, apart from having to provide a new uniform for the new neighbourhood warden, there's only been an additional cost of £250 towards a stab vest. However, she believes that if we added to the staffing costs contingency of £2,500, that would be more than adequate in this situation. It's also to note that unfortunately, currently, to ensure, well, due to health and safety and how the service has been risk assessed by Durham County Council, there is an additional premium that we are currently paying for a second vehicle hire, which amounts to £8 per day. Over a course of the full year, that would amount to around about £3,000. Currently, they do not believe that there will be a requirement for this vehicle for the full year. However, it would be dependent on the situation with regards to COVID and the risk assessment of the service. Obviously, if we didn't have that second vehicle, the service would have a direct impact, and it would mean that one of the neighbourhood wardens wouldn't be able to get out and about, and therefore we would effectively be down to one person. So with that in mind, the total cost, including the contingency for £2,500 and possibly a second vehicle, depending on how long the risk is associated, would come to £75,670. However, it could be as low as £70,000 and 170. So hopefully that outlines the additional information. Obviously, the other elements to this is there's no requirement to have 2 neighbourhood wardens if we only wanted to go down to 1. And if that was the case, then obviously I've mentioned in there about DCC having several unfilled vacancies, which an individual would fill if that was the case. Finally, in 4.5, I've mentioned about the council if the council looked to deliver the same function in-house, of course, any enforcement powers would be sacrificed because of the current regulatory restrictions of the town council, and it is likely 2P regulations would still apply in these circumstances. And also sizable additional costs would also be incurred for setup, uniform and equipment, effectively the elements that we may not have to pay for this year because we've already paid for them in the previous years. So the recommendation on this point is to consider the report, and I've made a recommendation that full council to full council that the current contract is for neighbourhood wardens with DCC is renewed for 1 year with a full specification review undertaken mid-year. The reason why I've mentioned a full specification review undertaken in mid-year is that it will allow us to assess what our requirements are, whether they've changed over the last 3 years, and whether they're going to change following the ending of the pandemic restrictions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments, questions? Anyone? Joan?
I'm not sure if we should be making comment on this. And then, sorry, Joan Nicholson, Catchgate Ward. As county councillors, as dual hatted members, I'm not sure we should be making a comment.
Mark?
I'm just coming in to say a few things, but one thing is that I disagree with Joan because I'm not going to be talking about what I think of the management of the service or anything that's going to be getting us into trouble, which it has in the past, to be fair. I just want to come in to say that I think that our 2 wardens are doing one of the things that I think that a lot of us will be taken away from this pandemic is the amount of times we've seen a picture of Dave Jarvis with a huge pie after he's delivered his 500th food parcel, his 1,000th food parcel, his 1,200th food parcel or whatever. So I think that's going to be one of the things. The other thing is that I reported some, how can I put this? Reported some fly tipping, but it's not really fly tipping because it's on private land. It's people chucking stuff out in back streets and things. I reported that last week, and I got an email back the next day saying that they were shutting down my CRM because one of the neighbourhood wardens from Stanley Town Council had already spotted the fly tipping. He'd already put a thing in for it to get picked up, and the situation was going to get fixed, and it did on last Friday. So there's the two sides of the same thing. One, we're doing things in the community. We're working on community projects. We couldn't do this without these 2 officers. And the other one is we're also being proactive in the communities as well. We're getting out and about there. We're spotting things that are wrong and we're fixing them. So they will be my 2 observations on it. And thanks to James for doing a little bit more investigation and a bit more digging on those costs to make sure that that they were what they said they were. I think it's good that that we do have those costs where it is 2 seconds. I'll just pull the right page up. Where we've got a little step up there of the staying the same as that for year 3. So I think it's good that we've got a little bit of cost certainty there. I'm sure that that we'll not get anywhere near spending that £2,500 that we've got for the that we're putting in for the little bit of contingency for the radios and the stab vests and that type of thing. But we are better off having that there than not having that there. because one of the questions I was going to ask is, why did we budget 76 grand when it's only going to cost us 70? But I think that's answered the question, that that we do have that contingency in. Just James didn't realise he hadn't been told about that. So the last thing is that that I don't think that that doing this for a year and reviewing it after 6 months, I don't think that's gonna work for what we want to do. We want to have a service that people get used to, that they know it's going to be there, that that we can use as councillors, and also we can be out there and be known to the public. So I'd like to, rather than the recommendation that James has got, I'd like to say that we review the service for 3 years, and we renew the service for 3 years, and do a full review after 2 years. That's going to give us a chance to do the things we want to do, and also it's going to give us more time to do a review as well after the first 2 years are finished, to make sure that that what we're doing is what we still want to do. And the last thing is, also agree with the points in section the bit at the end, section 4 point whatever it is, about bringing them in house and things like that. I don't think that's going to benefit us. I think that this tie-up does everything we needed to do, and really it's working well, so we'll keep it on going. All we need is, this is the bit that might be controversial that I shouldn't be saying, but really what we need is that we just need more information to come back to us, and to see officers from the county council more often at our meetings, telling us what they've been doing and what they plan to do in the future. Thanks very much, Chair, and I've been on for 5 minutes, but much appreciated. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. Carol?
I would just like to say I agree with everything Mark says. I think they're doing a cracking job. You know, things have been moved a lot quicker by our own wardens than what they have by others. So thanks to them.
Yeah.
Chair, am I okay to come in on what Councillor Nicholson said earlier?
Yes.
With regard to pecuniary interest and whether the county councils would be involved?
Yeah.
I do believe on this occasion that county councillors may vote on this subject, because they are not the ones who would benefit if this contract was made available.
Okay, thanks, James. That's really helpful. Joan?
Can I come back in there?
Yes, Joan.
I'm not sure it's right for this council to encompass the next council, seeing as we're supposedly having an election. To commit to 3 years when we don't know if any of us will be here. And the next people may decide, and I think the town clerk's idea of a year is what I would call a stopgap, and it'll either prove to the next council or won't prove to, you know, whichever it's going to do, that it works or it doesn't work, because there could be a whole, you know, there could be a whole 20 different people.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Joan. Anyone else for anything else? Mark?
Can I just come in and say that I was shaking my head and waving dismissal via the child. I wasn't shaking my head and waving dismissal via because he keeps sticking his head around the door going shh and telling us things, and I just can't hear, so I've got rid of him. But it was just while Joan was speaking, I didn't want people to think that I was being rude to Joan, that was all.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Okay. Do we have any further comments? Right, James, what do we need?
So, Chair, Councillor Davidson made a motion there, but obviously there was no seconder for the motion, so that would fall in this instance, and we would go back to the initial recommendation, which was for make a recommendation to full council that the current contract for neighbourhood wardens with Durham County Council is renewed for 1 year with a full specification review undertaken mid-year. Oh,
I thought
Councillor
Carol,
Timmy-
sorry, I thought Carol had seconded that.
I said I second everything Mark says.
Oh, my apologies then, Councillor. I will make a note of that.
Okay.
Okay, so Chair, we would need to have a vote on the motion. Then, obviously, if that is agreed, that would take precedence. So,
okay, smash it.
The motion set by Councillor Davidson and then seconded by Councillor Hampson was to make a recommendation to full council that the current contract for neighbourhood wardens with Durham County Council is renewed for a further 3 years with a full specification review undertaken in year 2. Is that correct, Councillor Davidson?
It certainly is.
Fantastic. Okay, Councillor Gordon Binney.
For.
Councillor Helen Clark.
Against.
Councillor Mark Davidson.
For.
Carol Hampson.
For.
Councillor James Kane.
For.
Is Councillor McMahon in yet, or has he appeared or not? No. Okay. Councillor Balliner.
For.
John Nicholson.
Against.
Jeanette Stevenson.
For.
Councillor Les Timby.
For.
And Councillor David Tully.
Against.
Chair, that's 7 votes to 3 for the motion, so that would take precedent and that would be carried.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Item 10, decarbonisation project. Over to you again, James.
Thank you very much, Chair. Unfortunately, members, we are still to go over what I've been waiting for. I was informed that we should have been notified of whether we'd been accepted for the decarbonisation scheme grant, but unfortunately, as of yet, we are still yet to find out. I've been in touch with Salix, who are the grant organisation, and they inform me that they can't give me an update on the situation. However, they are working through as many grants as physically possible to get the detail out as soon as possible as well. So when we do hear, we will obviously make you aware of that situation. So the report, as is read, is looking at the proposals to improve the energy efficiency of the Civic Hall, including an update on the submitted proposal to the decarbonisation scheme. A bit of background information on the fact that the Civic Hall is currently heated using natural gas in a 5-boiler system. The boilers have been in circa 27 years and are substantially beyond their normal working life. So uneconomical repairs and a lack of parts available have led to the Civic Hall currently only able to use 2 of these boilers to heat the building. These boilers are identified as very inefficient, and therefore the cost to heat water and heat radiators is very expensive compared to that of a new boiler. 2.2, a discrepancy in the Civic Hall gas bills is identified during 2020. Following an investigation, the gas usage was found to be 17.5 times higher than originally budgeted for. It is understood that the discrepancy was because of a faulty meter that was replayed by an energy company, but unfortunately a lack of accurate meter readings following the replacement has meant that the actual gas usage has only just been realised. So the 2021 budget allocated £2,000 for the gas costs. The recently agreed budget for 21-22, based upon the expected gas usage, has allocated £35,000. On the 1st of October, the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy launched the Public Sector Decarbonisation Scheme, again delivered by Salix. So the grant offers £1 billion of grant funding to public sector organisations. It's part of the government's plan to meet the targets of national net zero carbon emissions by 2050, and obviously the up to the £1 billion is available funding is available nationally. So since November 2020, we've looked to undertake several energy saving protocols to reduce the ongoing energy costs. Unfortunately, it's significantly difficult to reduce energy costs in a hall that size when the heating is either on or it's off. So some of the things that we've looked at are turning off air conditioning units in the cellar, turning off all bar fridges, turning off the heating wherever possible, and ensuring all lights are off in rooms that are not in use. During this period, you're undertaking daily meter readings and hope to undertake a full review at the end of February to identify any further savings. Since then, we've received one quote to have new boilers installed without any other work from Durham County Council for £49,000. However, it's believed that further work would be needed as part of the project to increase the boiler house ventilation, as well as extensive pipe and radiator repairs. So in September, I was made aware of this public sector grant funding called the Decarbonisation Project. And at the time, conversations were held initially with Durham County Council to see if we could progress on a halted project to use mine water to heat the Louisa Centre swimming pool. Unfortunately, the timescales of the fund did not allow, but advice and guidance has been provided by DCC. And to be fair, they've been absolutely fantastic with providing that guidance. So the decarbonisation scheme was announced on the 1st of October, with the last date of submission for the 13th of January 2021. So although it is quite a number of months in the world of procurement, the short timescale available made the submission complex, with the requirement for the full project to be costed and backed up with industry agreed information. Unfortunately, this has led to 2 of the initial 3 companies identified to provide a submission declining to proceed. So Engineer Renewables Group has provided the Council's only submission to the decarbonisation scheme following an exhaustive feasibility study. They've also engaged with Salix on the Council's behalf to identify the boundaries of any submission to make that application more likely to succeed. So the company are a regional-based firm who pride themselves with using a local workforce to undertake work, and any work subcontracted out as part of the proposal will be offered to local contractors first. Should the proposal be successful, they will also use local suppliers to purchase the materials and equipment for the job wherever possible. A bit of history on Engineera, that they are the first organisation to install an air source heat pump under the Salix funding and have undertaken extensive work both locally and nationally, including a 600-panel solar panel project for Newcastle City Council. So the grant submission was for £574,987 and covers heating replacement, that is the replacement of the old gas boilers with state-of-the-art air source heat pumps, heating replacement in the terms of ventilation, which is the ventilation system at the back of the theatre that currently is out of use, a building management system that would keep track of the heating system and the solar panel system, LED lighting, of which currently accounts for around 50% of the Civic Hall energy usage, and solar panels to include a 54-panel 66 kilowatt system on top of the Civic Hall, reducing the annual cost of our electricity bill by approximately £8,000 per year. So these proposals are in line with those discussed with Durham County Council officers. The project is fully funded by the Council and require no additional financial commitment from the Council, while sufficient contingencies have been built into the project. So Jerry from Engineera is expected to attend the next full council meeting to discuss and outline the proposal, the use of the new technology and what it will mean for Stanley Town Council. Should we not be successful in the grant funding, it is expected that Jerry will still provide some information and with possible options of what happens next. So point 4 is the terms of the grant, in the fact that should we be successful, a project programme will be drawn up by Engineera with support from Stanley Town Council officers, and following approval of this, the grant will become available. No cost will be incurred by the Council as part of the process, including upfront payments. So the requirement for the grant is for monthly updates on the project, with any delays or significant changes to cost, scope or contractor made known as soon as possible, and the grant is based upon a completion date of 31st of September 2021. Unfortunately, I have no idea what this means with regards to the delay and being told, but I imagine that there will be some scope for sway either side of that. So in the event of any projected overspend, the amount of such overspend will be expected to be met by the Council. However, early reporting of issues will allow Salix to enter discussions to find alternative funding to ensure the project is delivered. Should any part of the grant be unspent, it will be returned to Salix. We do not foresee any issues regarding an overspend, having principally agreed that the project to be of a fixed price with a healthy contingency built into the project to allow for unforeseen issues. So the recommendations for this report, Chair, are that the committee is to consider the report and make a recommendation to full council that, subject to the awarding of the public sector decarbonisation grant monies, that the project can go ahead, with Engineera awarded the contract as the prime contractor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, James. Can I open it to the floor for comments, questions? I mean, I think it sounds absolutely brilliant. If it could help us to be green and to reduce our costs, it's a win-win situation. Mark?
Thanks, Chair. I think you've just stolen what I was going to say. Hey, that's all right. I think that everybody sitting around the table is probably, well, not sitting around the table, sitting around their own tables is probably thinking the same thing, that if we can get this money, we can save carbon and save money at the same time, and it'll be really good for the council. I'm going to go on another monologue on this one, I think. So back at the back end of 2019, I got a biomass boiler put into Crackhead Village Hall, and this is the company that I chose to do it. Until I got the report through for this committee, I didn't realise that they were the company that James was working with on this proposal, if you know what I mean. But they were really good and professional at Crackhead. They sent the invoices when they said they'd send the invoice. They sent the engineer when they said they'd send the engineer. They tidied up after themselves and showed a daft lad like me how to go on and how to work the stuff. So I think that we've chosen the right company to work with, even if it was sort of by default, if you know what I mean, that they were the only ones who actually wanted the work. So I think that we've got a big plus there, and I'd just like to see that we continue work and get this job done, because if we can get it done while the world's still recovering from COVID, then by the time everything's ready to go again, we'll have a nice heating system that you can turn up and down in all the rooms. You can get extra money in off the roof, and a lot of it will be somehow, I don't know how it works, how can air source heat pump, how can that heat a building when it's like today? I don't know, but it does. So I'm looking forward to the engineer coming and giving us a little bit of explanation the next time as well, because I don't understand how it works. I just know that it does. Thank you. So I propose that we go with the recommendation by the officers at the bottom of the thing. I can read them out if you want. Give us a sign. I propose that we go with the recommendation that we send it to full council to reward the public sector decarbonisation grant monies, and we're using Generator to be the contractor. Please, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mark. Les? You're on mute, Les.
Yes. Sorry about that. I think it's a good project, and I think the reducing of the carbon footprint is what this world's all about at the minute. We've got to look at the green issues, and having a green energy solution will be really, really good for Stanley Town Council. But I've got one question for James, because at the minute we have a meter that we built, somebody else in I think it's one point across the road, use our gas or electricity or whatever. How will that affect us going forward? Because if we're going to be self-sufficient, how do we bill 1 point for their gas?
It's an interesting concept, and thank you for asking the question. If members weren't aware, that the current arrangement with the Civic Hall is that we heat the 1 point building next door. So effectively, there is a huge pipe that runs from our boiler house to the 1 point building to heat all their radiators. It's not an ideal situation, but it is a situation that we are currently working with, and it is part of the lease agreement. It's a conversation that I've had with Durham County Council officers about, the future, and they recognise that it's not the ideal scenario to be in. However, the the decarbonisation project that they've brought about effectively replaces the whole system as is, so it can deliver the same, if not more, kilowatt hours of heat generation. So therefore, there would be no detriment for the 1 point shop for heating purposes. Obviously, if we're generating our own heat, then obviously there's there is a situation where how do we build them, and that will have to go down to negotiations about how we do that, of which, you know, we're not really at that stage yet, but obviously I will involve council when it does come down to that point. Another thing that has been mentioned is that we will receive money via the FIT scheme, which is the incentive where the government pay organisations to, you know, to look at green energy and self energy. However, that's not part of the grant, and therefore we couldn't include that in the costings and everything like that of the benefits. But there is a benefit there for us. There's a bizarre wording in the grant funding of how it goes about. But yeah, we will subject to it all going through. We will be paid a certain amount per kilowatt hour, of which will come directly into our bank account as well.
Thanks very much, James. Nothing like putting you on the spot. I will.
John? Oh, sorry, what? John.
Can I just say I'm absolutely pleased to see this, because it's about 7 years ago when we were offered a solar panel for the roof of the Civic Hall and we refused it. And for me, you know, we should have done it 7 years ago, and perhaps the electric bills mightn't have been as much, and the gas bill, well, I've harped on about the gas bill since we took the Civic Hall over. So there was clearly a problem there, but it's nice to see that we're thinking about the green energy and what we should be doing.
Yeah, totally agree, Joan. Thank you.
Chair, can I just come in on one final point with regards to the so although we've ended up with only one single submission, what I did do was I looked at the local areas and looked at these individuals or organisations who could fulfil the work. So it wasn't just the case of going through the old yellow pages and finding the first three that came to mind. We looked at local organisations that in the local area who are what they called MCS certified, so they're able to install and undertake some of this works. I think the reality is that because the grant didn't have a scope as such that you could effectively, you know, spend as much as you wanted, or much you could bid for as much as you wanted, meant that the possibilities became endless. And I think that was one of the issues of certain organisations pulling out and deciding that it wasn't for them. However, it's working with the engineer. Obviously, they are a bigger organisation on a regional and national scale as well. So I've got no concerns with regards to them being able to undertake the work. And like what Councillor Davidson said earlier, you know, they've been excellent throughout the whole process. They've undertaken extensive feasibility studies, which, you know, which do come in quite costly, and they would have cost us thousands of pounds to be undertaken. So, you know, the fact that they've taken on this project means that they have belief in it as well. So,
thank you very much. Mark?
Thanks, Chair. I'm just coming in to agree with James again, really, that when I was trying to do something similar at Craghead, if I'd had exactly what I wanted and exactly how I wanted to do it and knew everything about it, then I had quite a few companies who were willing to come in and sort of stick in the gear, if you know what I mean. But it was far harder work to get somebody when you've just got, like, I've got a building and I want to heat it and I want to do this with it and I want to do that with it. It's far harder to, like, have a concept in that game by the look of it. And like I say, these were the ones that worked with us to really get it done exactly the same as they have with James. So just like to do that. But then the other thing is James mentioned the feed-in tariff. So you get a bit feed-in tariff. So what you would do is per kilowatt hour that you do, you get the money put into your bank. So as well as being green and saving money on your electric and on your gas, then you get something back from it as well. I'm not exactly sure 100% what it would be, but that'll be something that you can then put into your budget. Say if you get it put in the summer, you would have like 6 months worth that you could then put into your budget, that you would then like just double what you got and stick it into your budget. So even if it's like, I don't know what it's going to be, say £5,000 or something, then you've got another £5,000 to be able to stick into your budget that you're going to be getting paid as income. So that bit's really important as well.
Yeah, sounds great. So Mark, you've made a proposal. Do we have anyone to second? Les, you put your hand up.
I'll second everything that Mark proposed.
Okay. Okay, everyone. James?
Right, thank you, Chair. So the recommendation, if I can find it, is to make recommendation to full council that subject to the awarding of the public sector decarbonisation grant monies, the project can go ahead with engineer awarded the contract as the prime contractor. Obviously, this is all subject to us getting this grant funding, and there'll be a separate conversation if that doesn't occur.
Okay.
Councillor Gordon Binney.
4.
Councillor Helen Clark.
4.
Councillor Mark Davidson.
4.
Councillor Carol Hampson.
4.
James Kane.
4.
Councillor Joe McMahon isn't here. Councillor Ballinair.
4.
Councillor Joan Nicholson.
4.
Jeanette Stevenson.
4.
Councillor Les Timby.
4.
And Councillor David Tully.
You're on mute, Dave.
4.
No, you're not.
4.
Thank you, Chair. That's a unanimous.
Okay, that's lovely. Righty ho. So moving on in the agenda, it's the policy working group.
Sorry, Chair. Alan is going to take this report.
Right. Okay. Lovely. Alan.
Hello.
Hi.
Everybody. Yeah, it's just an update on the policy working group. Well, firstly, I'd like to start off by thanking everybody who's been part of the group. We've been together for a little while now. We've done a large amount of work when you look back over it. We've reviewed a lot of the policies in place and put a lot of new stuff in there as well as updated some of the existing stuff. So I thank the members of the group for all their help during that. For this one in particular, it was a bit of a catch-up. Well, obviously, there'd been a few months prior to that where we hadn't had any meetings, so we did a number of policies. The minutes are there. I mean, basically, it was we decided to cancel some of them that were covered elsewhere. We looked at the new one with the data retention policy. We've updated the disciplinary policy, the discretionary room hire. We've got a new one, which is a learning agreement, which is anybody undertaking training. It's just to make sure that if we weren't, the council's going to pay for training, so we signed up for that. So there's a commitment there to pay back if you were to leave within a specified time. We've updated the recruitment manager's guide, which I think had been previously, but there was more amendments needed for that. And the remote meetings protocol is something that we've introduced just recently. James Black's drafted this one up with the meetings that we have in place, just to clarify how the operations goes along. The other ones that we did was the strategic grant fund at the time, which obviously is not as relevant now with the way things are with the budget next year, and also the town mayor's awards. Other than that, we had another meeting which will come forward next time with the policy working group, which we did the risk register and the publicity policy, but that wasn't done in time to get this done. We did review them. I've taken on board the recommendations of the group. We've made the necessary amendments. We went back round. We had another look. There was a couple of things I'd missed, so I'd like to thank people again for pointing them out to us, because it means that we'll get them right when we get them approved. So if everybody's okay, I'm happy enough to take these forward, if that's all right.
Any questions for Alan? Les?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Alan, as one of the members of this group, for all the work that he does and getting us all the relevant policies and getting them to this stage for approval. I'll also thank everybody else that's on the group, because we do work together and we'll come out with satisfactory conclusions. So I know, it's only for noting, and I think we should just note them and, acknowledge Alan's work that he's done on getting all these policies through.
Just to chip in there, apologies, but just to say, just to back up what Les has said there, it is an open group. Everybody does chip in, and we do work together as a unit. And we do take everybody's opinions on board. So thanks for that, folks.
That's lovely. If I have no more questions or comments, I'll just request that committee note the report.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, happy to note, Chair.
Okay, that's great. Date and time and venue of our next meeting is Tuesday, the 9th of March, 2021, 6:30 via Teams. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.
Thanks, Chair. Good
Night,
night.
night.